Welcome in, everybody, to Masters of the Madness, the #1 free college basketball betting show from Pickswise. Before we get started, don't forget to follow Pickswise at Pickswise on Twitter for free daily betting picks, parlays, and prop bets. I'm your host, Aaron Torres, honored to be joined by college basketball insider Jon Rothstein, as well as former Detroit Mercy star Rashad Phillips, who now specializes in college basketball and NBA draft prospect evaluation. Gentlemen, we have a bracket. Didn't have one last year. We are good to go. A tournament is being played. Jon is actually in Indy, so it's official. How are we doing today, guys?
Never better, Aaron. Just great to be joined with luminaries like yourself.
I'm extremely excited, just like Jon. It's March, guys. I mean, what else better could we ask for, right?
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right, Rashad. This is the greatest time of year for us sports bettors. According to research, around $9 billion will be wagered on March Madness. With sports betting now legal in over a dozen states, it's my pleasure to announce that this show is brought to you by one of the market-leading online legal sports books, FanDuel. Let me tell you a little about FanDuel Sportsbook's $1,000 risk-free first bet for new customers. I'll give you a great example of how to use it. Pick a team you think can win it all in March. Let's take Michigan at plus 600. If Michigan goes on to win, you'll get paid $7,000. That's your $1,000 free bet plus $6,000 in winnings. If they lose, you get your money back as a free bet. This is where FanDuel Sportsbook is different from the other sportsbooks. Their offer pays cash value on the free bet value if your free bet cashes. Sign up using the link down below in the description or use the promo code Pickswise to claim now. All right, gentlemen, bracket is out, as I said, but even before we get to the bracket, we just had wall-to-wall basketball for the past basically 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever you want to say, but conference championship week is behind us. Before we get to this year's bracket, give us one thing that you learned during conference championship week. Jon, go ahead, start with you.
Well, I think the biggest thing I learned, honestly, is that, history and tradition has really proven that just because you have momentum in conference tournaments doesn't mean that you're going to have momentum in the NCAA tournament. That's something that I've followed for years. And Aaron, I did a little digging here while I was in quarantine in Indianapolis. And this is something that's interesting. 6 of the last 8 national champions have not won their respective conference tournaments. So that's a big thing to keep in mind as we're going through the bracket here today.
Great news for Baylor, Michigan, Ohio State, Villanova, on and on and on. Rashad, what did you learn this year during championship week?
You know what? For me, it's the same scenario every March. I feel like the basketball guys just sprinkle a little bit of their magic dust on every team and allow us to witness so many remarkable moments. I'm excited, and a lot of these things are going to happen coming forward, and it's going to be etched in our hearts forever. So I'm just really excited to see these teams use that magic dust.
Well, I'll tell you this, unprecedented year in the conference tournaments. Oregon State winning their first Pac-12 title ever, Pac-12 conference tournament title at the very least. Alabama winning their first SEC tournament title in close to 30 years. Same with Georgia Tech in the ACC. So it shows how unprecedented this season in college basketball has been and how, frankly, unprecedented it could be going forward. So as we transition from the conference tournaments to actual March Madness betting strategy, let's talk about that betting strategy. With sports betting now legal in many new states, this may be the first time that a lot of our viewers have been able to bet on March Madness legally. Do you have any sports betting advice specifically as it comes to college basketball? Rashad, I'll throw to you first on this one, my man.
Yes, here's my 2 things. Out of all the #1 seeds, there's always that one #1 seed that isn't always as trustworthy as the other 3. So be wary of that. My second thing, if you're looking to win big, always bet on the field. March is about upsets, buzzer beaters. Look for teams that rebound well, knock down the 3-point shot, make other teams uncomfortable in half court. Look for teams that exploit matchup problems. That's how you pinpoint upsets, and that's how you win big.
All good points, Aaron, but good points are obviously only followed by better hosts. So why don't you make your point?
About gambling on March Madness. What I would just say very simply is I think what I just laid out as far as how wild the conference tournaments are. I didn't even mention Georgetown winning as an 8 seed at the Big East tournament. I think it really is going to lead to an unprecedented NCAA tournament. I mean, I do think those top 4 teams are probably significantly better. If we get back Isaiah Livers, I do think those top 4 are significantly better. I think even with Baylor losing in the Big 12 tournament, they are still an excellent play, as a national championship contender. But I think after that, in terms of betting, if you saw something in conference championship week or throughout the regular season, go ahead and ride it, because I think you start looking at those 4 lines, those 5 lines. I don't think the gap is as wide this year. John, I know later we're going to get to what the actual setting is like in Indy. And so because of it, I worry about the mental fatigue that these players are going to go through. So essentially, all I'm saying is if you like somebody as a 12 seed, a 13 seed, don't be afraid to bet it, because this will be the year that it happens. How about you, John, betting advice?
Well, now I'm a little bit disappointed because you took one of my points when I segued back.
It's okay.
To it. Being here in the controlled environment, in the bubble in Indianapolis, you bring up a great point, and something that I've thought the same is, like, we're evaluating obviously who we're going to take in our picks and to go far in this NCAA tournament by veteran experience, overall talent, guard play. All those things are obviously aligned and true, but you have to also look and see what team is going to have the best mental stamina to function in this environment for the next 3 weeks. It's going to be an interesting dynamic to watch unfold, but it's definitely something to keep in mind when you make your selections.
Very good. The team of college basketball experts at Pickswise have also put together their 10 commandments for betting on March Madness, which you can see on your screen here. Guys, if you're at home, go ahead, pause the video, take a screenshot, keep those 10 commandments by your side all tournament long. All right, we've been beating around the bush. Let's just get straight to it. It is time to get to business and answer the question everybody wants to know. April 5th, we will crown our first national champion since Virginia back in 2019. Here are the latest odds from the FanDuel Sportsbook. Gonzaga, the overwhelming favorite at plus 200. Baylor plus 500. Illinois coming off that wild Big Ten championship run plus 600. Michigan, as I stated a minute ago, uncertain on the status of Isaiah Livers, at least as we record here, at plus 750. Iowa plus 1,600. Houston plus 1,800. Ohio State and Alabama, the SEC champs there on the back end, plus 2,100. And then after those teams, you get into real long shot territory. So, guys, as I just said, Gonzaga and Baylor really have separated themselves from the field entering championship week and coming out of championship week. The story has been all year. Do you think Baylor, Gonzaga, Baylor, who do you like? Who's your favorite? Do you think now that we actually have the bracket in front of us, now that we have these 68 teams plus the 4 that are sitting on standby at home, is it still Baylor, Gonzaga? Will the national champion come from one of those 2 teams? John, I'll go ahead and start with you.
No, because Illinois has joined the party. And, I remember watching the movie Carlito's Way with Al Pacino in the late 1980s. And, there's a scene where Pacino has to get himself out of a situation in a pool hall, and he yells out of a bathroom stall, "Here comes the pain." And pain is coming for Illinois' opponents. Illinois, to me, and I don't want to play spoiler here, but I'm going to say, is the team I'm picking to win a national championship because of the mental stamina that this team has and has displayed. You saw it in the Big Ten tournament. So I think really all season long, we thought it was a 2-horse race, but the Illini and with some of the young freshmen that they have on their roster have joined the top tier.
Rashad, before we get to your pick, I have one follow-up for John here really quick on Illinois. You talk about the mental toughness. How about the fact that you have all those emotional games down the stretch, some without Ayo Dosunmu, their All-American point guard. How do you think playing without Ayo Dosunmu really toughened them up, not only for the Big Ten tournament last week, but going forward with this NCAA tournament?
Well, Aaron, I remember texting with Brad Underwood the day that they played Wisconsin without Ayo Dosunmu, and he just texted me back, Curbelo time. And Andre Curbelo has been a revelation for Illinois, and you'll appreciate this because I know you obviously have UConn near and dear to your heart. It's the 10-year anniversary of when Connecticut won a national championship with Kemba Walker at the helm, and there's been a lot of talk this year about Ayo Dosunmu being a Kemba Walker light for Illinois. But if you remember back in 2011, Shabazz Napier was also a critical piece next to Kemba Walker as a freshman. Andre Curbelo is filling that ancillary role. And here's another thing when we look at Illinois. Adam Miller, somebody who doesn't obviously, always become the name in bold print, is a key piece here to monitor in the NCAA tournament. This season, when Adam Miller scores in double figures, the Illini are 10-1.
I'll tell you, I love my UConn Huskies, but with due respect to Alex Oriaki, their starting center in 2011, he was no Kofi Coburn. That's a different that guy's cut from a different cloth. Rashad, do you believe that it is Gonzaga, Baylor in the field, or have other teams entered that conversation?
No, I'm going to go Zags here. I just think when you look at what Gonzaga brings to the table, they're great defensively. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're well coached. And I love the play of Suggs and Corey. And Drew Timme is as productive of a player of anybody in the country. But not only that, when you look into the fabric of the NCAA, you always have to follow the guard play. Yep. And Gonzaga has a lot of guard play, and that's why I'm so confident in their ability. But you're going to hear the mid-major school, they don't play anybody, they don't play this, they don't play that. But I don't think Gonzaga fits in that narrative, and here's why. They have some quality non-conference wins. They beat Auburn, they beat West Virginia, they beat Virginia, and we all missed that December 5th matchup they were supposed to have against Baylor. But I tell you this, Gonzaga is one of those teams that want all the smoke, per se. So I'm going to go Zags here because I just like what they bring to the table.
Let me ask you this, Rashad, as a former player. You mentioned that they played Virginia earlier this season. The thing that stood out to me when this bracket came out, the number 2, 3, and 4 seed in their region, they actually beat all of them. Iowa, Kansas, Virginia, by double digits, Rashad. As a former player or as a guy that's now in coaching, would you be worried at all about the fact that they could see a team that they beat pretty convincingly, a letdown factor at all in that Sweet 16 Elite 8?
Yeah, you'll have a little doubt there because you don't want your team to be a little lax. Hey, resting on their morals per se. Hey, we beat these guys earlier in the season. What I would do as a coach is reassure my team, hey, these guys lost to us and we beat them convincingly. So let's make sure we do what we did prior to get this win. Also, again, the guard play for me. The guard play for me is tremendous what Gonzaga brings to the table. Suggs is a top 5 pick. Corey is a lottery pick. Drew Timme's an NBA player. They have a lot of depth. I just think it's a confidence builder to look at that bracket and say, we beat 3 of these teams already, and let's continue that. Let's not give them any breathing room.
All right, let's kind of stay kind of the same conversation, but flip it the other way. How about a team near the top of the odds board, a number 1 or number 2 seed that you think is overrated and could be susceptible to an upset? I'll actually throw it back to you, Rashad. Start with you.
Wow, I hate to say this, guys. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and it's really paining me to go here and say this, but I got to say it. I think Michigan is the team that's more susceptible to take a loss. Obviously, the injury to Isaiah Livers is a huge blow. It leaves a huge void to fill. Michigan has played well without him, but I just believe to get far in March, you need all of your soldiers. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on the point guard, Mike Smith. He's a tremendous player. I loved his game the other day against Maryland, 18 points, 15 assists, but he's going to have those type of historical moments a lot more times than just one game in order to avoid early elimination. There's going to be a lot on Mike Smith's shoulders. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if he's going to be ready for that, man. I'm sorry, Michigan, but I think you guys fall first.
Go ahead, John. The floor is yours.
No, I agree with obviously what, Rashad said about Michigan. And, I said, yesterday, after watching the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament on Saturday, that, the biggest thing that was really of interest to my eyeballs when the bracket came out was who is Michigan going to play in the round of 32? Because the round of 32 for me is always where the tournament officially starts because the landscape has changed. Because if you win that game, you get an extra 4 or 5 days of media attention. You get an extra 4 or 5 days of being in the limelight. It's been a game changer, especially if you're a mid-major. So when I saw that Michigan is either going to have Will Wade and LSU, who almost beat Alabama on Sunday, or a very well-coached team by Mark Schmidt out of the Atlantic 10 at St. Bonaventure. That is a dynamite matchup for Michigan in the round of 32. And to me, I think it's clear that they're the most vulnerable of the number one seeds. I don't think there's any debate about it.
No, the Isaiah Livers injury, I think, is a game changer. I agree with both of you on this one. I'm supposed to ask you about your national championship picks next, but we already both got, you two both gave them. So real quick, I'll kind of flip it the other way. Illinois, John, plus 600 at FanDuel Sportsbook. What is your biggest concern for Illinois? They're your pick, so you like them, obviously, but what is one concern that you might have about them as the bracket unfolds?
Aaron, and this isn't a cop-out answer. I've got complete, obviously, confidence in Illinois. Now, the second game that Illinois is going to have, regardless of its opponent, is going to be a meat grinder because Georgia Tech and Loyola Chicago, that first-round game really should be held in an octagon instead of a basketball court because when you think about what the style of play is going to be like. But with that said, I think things are set up pretty well for Illinois to get to a situation where we'll get to Indianapolis. But, guys, I named all the regions after some of the steakhouses here in Indianapolis because, when you're in quarantine, you'll do anything, obviously, to try to pass the time. So Illinois' region, to me, is the Steak and Shake region because I'm looking at it outside my hotel window, but I can't order because of Tier 2 protocols. But we'll get to that later in the show. We're just building up to it. But, you look at the toughness potentially in this region right now in the bottom right of your bracket. We have Illinois, you have the Georgia Tech, Loyola Chicago component. You have, obviously, Oklahoma State. There's Tennessee. There's also Houston and Kelvin Sampson on the bottom, along with Rutgers against Clemson, a game where the first to 40 is going to win. I mean, this is a dynamite region from a toughness perspective, the Steak and Shake region.
I like it.
All right, Rashad, I don't know what region Gonzaga's in. I'm going to call it the West. John, if you want to – with the St. Elmo's region. Okay, so the St. Elmo's region, Gonzaga is not only the top seed, but your pick to win the national championship. Rashad, what would concern you if you do have a concern? We know you like them, but what would be that one concern that you have?
For me is payback. I look at Kansas. I look at the West Side. I look at Kansas, and I feel that this team hasn't played necessarily well early on. But I just feel like there's something inside of these kids that want to play Gonzaga again. And that really scares me. They don't have the top tier players per se that Kansas usually has every year in, year out. But now I think collectively they can put it together and really give Gonzaga a scare. I can see that.
I'll just say before we move on, I really didn't want to pick Gonzaga prior to the tournament. I thought it felt too obvious. It felt too on brand. Oh, of course, the guy that follows college basketball picked the undefeated team. But I'll tell you, they are my pick as well at plus 200 in the FanDuel Sportsbook. And I just look at them. And what I really think with Gonzaga is they were a team that I thought if they were going to be susceptible to an upset, it was going to come in the Sweet 16, in the Elite Eight when the pressure is mounting. But I just feel like if they can get to a Final Four, I think they're in great shape. I think mentally, as we talked about the mental toughness, and we'll get into it more later, I just don't see them getting to the Final Four and then losing. And so, as Rashad just mentioned, I do think that the fact that there's some familiarity with some of the teams that they're playing, I don't see the team in their region that is ultimately going to beat them. Virginia, who they play in the Sweet 16, is going to be arriving late to the NCAA tournament. Kansas, I think, is a little bit limited offensively. So Gonzaga is my pick to win the national championship along with Rashad. I guess my cause for concern would just be the pressure that comes with being an undefeated team in the national, competing for a national championship. But let's move on. Before we do, if you're new to the channel, we put out free sports betting content to help make your bet better. If you want us to put out more free content on YouTube, please hit the like button below. It lets YouTube know that people enjoy our content and helps promote the video. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about long shots. Give me some things that you look out for when picking your long shots. Also, give me a team with longer odds that you think could make a legitimate run that you might sprinkle a few dollars on. John, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Guys, I've been talking about Oregon for a really, really long time the last couple of weeks. And in the St. Elmo's region, when I saw the brackets come out, I looked at their draw, and the first thing I said was, this is trouble for Iowa, because I look at Oregon, and again, this is all due respect to everybody in the Atlantic 10, but I just feel like the Atlantic 10's brand of basketball right now compared to what it was 6-7 years ago when we had, 6 teams in the NCAA tournament is significantly different. So I look at Oregon having, obviously, I think a very favorable draw in the round of 64 against VCU. Remember, Oregon's 11-3 with Will Richardson in the lineup. And then I know that Iowa has Luka Garza, but I look at the speed, the style, and the quickness that Oregon's going to be able to put on the floor. And I think their athleticism can really, really distort the way that Iowa plays. I've got the Ducks moving on beyond Iowa. And then I've got them going all the way to the Elite Eight, where we have a great Northwest showdown, Gonzaga against Oregon in the regional finals of the St. Elmo's bracket.
Very good. I will say I was actually in Las Vegas for some work stuff about a week, 10 days ago. May have a long shot future on Oregon as well. So I like Oregon. I like the pick. Rashad, how about you? A long shot that you want to sprinkle a few dollars on?
Yeah, I probably would sprinkle a few dollars on Tennessee. Look, Tennessee is one of the more complex teams in this tournament, and they play 7 guys over 20 minutes. Springer is a good combo guard. Pond is a great hybrid post interior defender, kind of shuts down the paint. Keon Johnson is a crazy athlete. I like Tennessee for some strange reason. I mean, they played Alabama really tough the other day. I just feel like they have the makeup to really win some games going far. I like that. But I got another team I want to talk about, and that's Abilene Christian. And
wow.
Look, I got to talk about this team. Look, they're 23-4 in the Southland Conference. This team plays with their hair on fire for 40 minutes. They make you very uncomfortable. They lead the nation in steals. They play the passing lanes. And this is one of those teams where you look up after 30 minutes and you're like, we're down 10 to this team. And you don't really know how it happened. So I think that Abilene Christian is the team that I will sprinkle a few of my dollars on.
Yeah. So Abilene Christians, you got over Texas then, Rashad.
I sure do.
Okay. Are you an Aerosmith fan? You're living on the edge now, my man. I don't know if Abilene Christian's seen Kai Jones in their league, but you know what? I respect the boldness, because that is bold.
We will be getting to more upset picks later on. Listen, I'll say this one isn't very sexy, but, talk about a long shot. We just talked a minute ago about Michigan being kind of limited, with where they're at. And I think that East region is wide open. So when I look at that 4 seed, Florida State, they've been knocking on the door forever. I know they didn't play great down the stretch. They lost the final game of the season at Notre Dame. They lost in the ACC championship game to Georgia Tech. Look, styles make fights. I think they have a nice draw to the Sweet 16. Michigan, if you even get them, is banged up, and then you're in an Elite Eight competing to go to a Final Four. So that is my long shot that I think could make a legitimate run here in the NCAA tournament, because, again, it's just about kind of just matchups and things of that nature. So, yeah. Let's move on and let's talk about placing some bets. If you have signed up to the FanDuel Sportsbook and deposited $1,000, which team are you looking to bet? Bear in mind, you get your money back as a free bet if it loses. So it could be anybody, but $1,000 deposited in the FanDuel Sportsbook. So you get the money back regardless. Give us one team that you would bet. Rashad, we'll go ahead and start with you.
This is obvious for me. I really love the UConn Huskies and what they bring to the table. I mean, Tyrese Martin is a great rebounder. RJ Cole is a solid player. And obviously, James Bouknight is one of the talented players in the country. This team rebounds well. They defend. I love the toughness about this team. That's where I will put my $1,000 on the UConn Huskies.
Very good. John, $1,000. FanDuel gives it to you for free. If you lose it, you get it back. Who are you putting your money on?
Fascinating. But, in this one, I'm going to go with San Diego State. San Diego State, in my opinion, is vastly underrated. Aaron, 14-game winning streak. And really, you have to wonder if this team in this program right now is in the witness protection program. I mean, nobody is talking about them. obviously have had a great season in the Mountain West and much more obscurity than last year's run with Malachi Flynn. I think the Aztecs have second weekend potential.
Very good. I will just say that as we move on, if you do want to get into the action and claim yourself a $1,000 risk-free bet, sign up using the link down below in the description or go to the FanDuel Sportsbook app and use the promo code Pickswise to claim now. Customers must be 21 years old or older and be present in one of the legal online betting states: New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, Virginia, Tennessee, West Virginia, or Iowa. See full terms at the FanDuel Sportsbook website, and please remember to gamble responsibly. Fellas, let's move on to the last of our future segments, Final Four picks. You can bet teams to win their region, and we're going to look at each region. So again, we're just making the pick that we think is going to win each individual region. Let's start in the East, and I'll run through the odds really quick. We've talked a lot about the East so far. Michigan minus 125, Alabama plus 390, Florida State plus 500, Texas plus 500, Colorado plus 750, UConn plus 750. So, gentlemen, who do you like in the East? Rashad, I will start with you. Who do you like to win the East?
I like Alabama. I believe they will have a challenge against a feisty Pitino team early on, but this is a team that is really good. Herb Jones is a fantastic dual forward. I like to say they play through him offensively. He rebounds, he scores, he facilitates, and Javon Quiverly is playing his best basketball as of late. I just think that Coach Oates puts his teams in position to play the game the right way. They're feisty, they're tough, they love to compete against the opposite team. I really like Alabama here. I just can't. I got Alabama.
I'm going with Texas. Texas to me is peaking at the right time. It's all because of Jericho Sims. Jericho Sims right now, coming off what he did in the Big 12 tournament, is producing comparable to what Jordan Bell showed when Oregon went to the Final Four in 2017. So if Jericho Sims plays like he did last week at Kansas City, Texas is a Final Four team.
If you had told me when I woke up this morning I was going to be a bouncer over Abilene Christian, I got the fan club on one side, I got them losing in the first round on the other side. We'll talk more about that matchup later on, but let's get out west. Gonzaga, we've discussed, overwhelming favorite, minus 250. Iowa, the number 2 seed, plus 350. Kansas, plus 750. USC, plus 750 as the 6th seed. Virginia, plus 750. Creighton, plus 750. All these odds courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll start with you this time, John. Who do you like in the West region?
The West region is obviously the St. Elmo's region, just so I want to make sure I get it straight for everybody at home. So if we're looking right now in the West region, I think it has to be Gonzaga. And as a matter of fact, I might rename this bracket a second time. Instead of the St. Elmo's region, it could be the Gonzaga Invitational. We've got Iowa as a 2 seed, okay, matching up potentially with Oregon, okay, in the round of 32. And then, the 3 and the 4 seed, Kansas and Virginia, are the 2 teams that have COVID problems. So, I think Gonzaga will win the Gonzaga Invitational with ease.
Rashad, you picked Gonzaga earlier. I'm guessing nothing's changed. Anything to add on that Gonzaga pick out west? In the St. Elmo's region, excuse me. I apologize.
Yeah, no, this is a no-brainer, this region. Again, Gonzaga is just a more dominant team. There's no reason to overthink this one. I think Gonzaga, they roll.
Very good. Let's move on to the South. Odds courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook. Baylor, the overwhelming favorite, of course, is the number 1 seed at minus 125. Ohio State plus 390. Villanova plus 600. Arkansas plus 700. Purdue plus 700. Texas Tech plus 700. Rashad, you're based in Texas. You know so many of these teams well. You know the South region very well. Baylor, the number 1 seed. Obviously, Arkansas, Texas Tech from right around the corner. Who do you have winning the South?
I'm going to go with Baylor. I mean, when you look at the guard play and what they bring to the table, Butler's tremendous. Mitchell's tremendous. They have maybe the most lethal tandem in all of college basketball. This Baylor team reminds me a lot of John Beilein's Michigan 2013 team with Trey Burke and Tim Hardaway Jr. That's what I see with Baylor. I got them going.
I'm going to agree with Rashad here. Yeah, I think Baylor is primed to make a Final Four. And I think, like we were talking about earlier with obviously, momentum in conference tournaments, not always yielding obviously success and winning a national championship. I think Baylor will be refocused and fresh for the NCAA tournament. Another thing too, when you look at Baylor, should they get to the second weekend here, you've got obviously a Villanova team that's limping into the tournament as a 5 seed, and then Purdue, who I think has a great chance to get to the second weekend. For this group of players at Purdue, it's their first time that they're going to be together in the NCAA tournament. So I see Baylor really with a nice road to a Final Four.
Very good. We'll wrap in the Midwest. Illinois, the favorite at plus 165. Houston, plus 350. West Virginia, plus 500. Oklahoma State, plus 600. Tennessee, plus 750. John, you already told us earlier you think Illinois is going to win the national championship, so obviously you like Illinois. Name us the one team that you think could give them the most problems in what I believe is the Steak and Shake region. Not positive on that, though.
Well, I think there's several, Aaron. I think when you look at, this region from top to bottom right now, there's quality toughness all throughout the region. So I think Illinois is going to be tested in every game that it will play as long as seeds hold all the way to the Final Four. But like a great boxer that can obviously be standing in the 12th round, I expect the Illini to make it and obviously get to the games that are going to be played on April the 3rd.
All right, Rashad, Midwest, who you got?
I'm going to go with Illinois here. I agree with John. Obviously, they're going to have some tough matchups throughout. I think Loyola Chicago will give them a fight for their money. They're going to force them to take tough shots. They're going to limit their possessions. But again, Illinois is just one of those teams that they're just a better puncher, like John said.
Very good. Let's move on, gentlemen. March for college basketball fans normally means a month full of roaring crowds, dramatic upsets, and buzzer beaters. This year's tournament will obviously be significantly different. All games will be played in one location in Indiana. Up to 25% capacity is where things will be capped. We'll talk about the reduced crowds and lack of travel in a minute, but John, you're in Indianapolis right now. And so very briefly, I would love for you to just give people a quick insight into what these players are going to be dealing with here over the next few weeks.
Well, Aaron, this is not going to be the type of Final Four NCAA tournament experience where you're having team meals and obviously you're doing fun activities. This is obviously a commitment to be as safe as possible. And the protocols are very intense, guys. I'm getting up every morning at 6, getting tested, then going back into my room. And for me personally, there are 3 places I can go for the next 22 days. This hotel room, the convention center in Indianapolis to do some other reporting, or a venue or arena where a game is being played. So it's very intense. You'll notice, obviously, everybody is in masks. Everybody is super careful. Meals will be grab and go for most teams. They'll take them out of their conference room, on the floor of their hotels. And they're also, guys, we have almost adaptable handles that come, I would say, 3 feet away from every doorknob so that people aren't touching the doorknob and spreading germs. So it is much different here in Indianapolis.
Very good. Rashad, just really quick, as a former player, just take us through what mentally these players must be going through living in an environment like that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a testament to whatever team can really get through this. As a player, the ultimate goal is to win the game. And you have to do whatever you have to do to get to that level. I think a lot of the kids are excited to just be in this environment, playing basketball. So I don't think it's going to be too much of a worry, because the tougher teams will prevail, especially the high-level players.
Very good. Rashad, really quick, your thoughts on the potential for no fans or limited fans, 25%. How does it impact players, coaches, refs, things of that nature once the games actually tip off?
Well, obviously, we've seen throughout the season, I believe the reason Duke and Kentucky are not in the tournament is because their lack of support from their fans. So it does play a huge favor. But again, there will be a lack of momentum baskets throughout. A lot of college teams depend heavily on their crowds. So the gestures, the baskets, the play. So in my opinion, the lack of crowd noise and attendance is going to favor the mid-major teams. And this is why a lot of mid-major teams don't play in front of huge crowds anyway. So it's not going to be that much of a difference. So that's why I like a lot of the mid-majors going into this. Also, I believe the lack of crowd noise is going to affect the refereeing in a positive way. A lot of times referees feel pressured to make certain calls because of the roar of the crowd for a certain team. You're not going to have that element this year. So I believe that the refereeing will be more evenly matched because of the lack of crowd pressure.
Jon, quick thoughts on the lack of fans in the stands impacting the game itself?
Well, levels the playing field, guys. I look at really, the early rounds of the NCAA tournament. Geographic advantage is usually such a big factor. We've seen it with Duke and North Carolina playing in Greensboro, over time. We've seen it with Villanova playing in Brooklyn or Philadelphia. The field this season will never be more level for lower seeded teams to beat higher seeded teams. It's why I think, we're going to see a lot of distortion in our brackets, especially with power conference teams that have very, very mid to low seeds in the NCAA tournament.
All right, before we get into round one games, I wanted to let you know that Pickswise Hoops Betting Hour will be live every day throughout the tournament, a college basketball betting live stream every single day at 9 a.m. right here on Pickswise YouTube channel. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a show. Now that we have the futures markets ticked off, fellas, it's time to dive into some round one action. 16 round one games are played on Friday, and then, of course, 16 more on Saturday. Tons of action all day long for us to get into. We're going to break down a favorite that we like to win and cover the spread, the 12 versus 5 game, which incredibly, we've seen a 12 seed upset a 5 seed 50 times dating back to when the tournament was expanded in 1985. So we'll talk about all that momentarily, but let's start in the East region. We've discussed Michigan's the 1 seed, wide open bracket. I think all of us agree, but let's start with a favorite that you think is going to comfortably win in round one. We'll start with you, Jon.
Well, I don't want to obviously do this to diminish the season that this team has had,
Sure.
But I look at UNC Greensboro against Florida State as a mismatch from a physicality perspective. I love Isaiah Miller, and I do know that Wes Miller, their coach, has obviously, some better size up front this year with Hayden Koval and Muhammad Abdul-Salam, but I think Florida State wins the game by double figures. They're getting 11.
How about you, Rashad? A team in that East region that you believe will win comfortably as a favorite?
I'm going to go UConn here. I just think that UConn has a tremendous trio backcourt with Book Knight and RJ Cole and Flower. These guys are tremendous. I like UConn.
All right, the 12-5 matchup in this region. The surprising, speaking of UConn, Big East tournament champion Georgetown, UConn, of course, in the Big East as well. They are the 12 seed in this region against the Pac-12 conference tournament runner-up Colorado. Rashad, we'll start with you. Do you see Patrick Ewing, another victory, advancing to the second round, pulling a 12-5 upset here?
Man, I want to go with Georgetown here so bad because the storyline fits it perfectly, but I really don't see it. I think Colorado wins this one. McKinley Wright is one of the best point guards in the country. He's playing with a little bit of chip on his shoulder. I don't think Georgetown gets it done. So this 12 seed doesn't win over here in the East. I'm going to go Colorado.
Hoya Paranoia, Jon, what do you got? 12 versus 5.
I think Colorado's got a decisive advantage at point guard. I know Dante Harris was sensational in the Big East tournament, but March is about veteran guard play. McKinley Wright, again, feels like he's been through 3,000 college games. I've got the Buffaloes marching on.
Very good. Underdog money line pick. In other words, a team that is expected to lose in Vegas in the FanDuel Sportsbook app, but you actually like to win outright. Jon, we'll start with you.
In the East region, an underdog, obviously, that I like to win outright. I have a lot of chalk in this region, so I'm going to go. This is a game that's a little bit inverted, but I have Michigan State winning 2 games. So assuming Michigan State gets by UCLA, I will have Tom Izzo and company over Mark Pope and BYU and on to the round of 32.
Rashad?
Yeah, when I'm looking at this region, I can't help but look at Abilene Christian. There's just something that's telling me that Abilene Christian is going to beat Texas in round 1. This team leads the nation in forcing turnovers. They have a lot of tough JUCO guys on that roster. They play with their hair on fire. Texas, if you don't protect the ball against Abilene Christian, you will lose this game by double digits. That's all I got to say.
All right, gentlemen, let's move to the West region. Rashad, I will start with you. Chalk to advance a favorite that you think is not only going to win, but cover the spread.
I'm going to go with Gonzaga here.
That easy, huh? They are an overwhelming favorite, but obviously the number one seed overall in the NCAA tournament. Makes sense from your perspective. John, what about you? Chalk to advance a favorite to win and cover the spread.
VCU, no, Oregon.
Very good. All right. In this region, the 12-5 matchup is UC Santa Barbara. They're the Big West champs. They're playing the Creighton Blue Jays, who, of course, lost in the Big East championship game. John, do you see a 12-5 upset potentially happening here?
I do. And, I got to tell you, Aaron, you've known me for a long time. I've never been somebody that's believed in vacation, but my favorite place to go now in the greater United States is Santa Barbara. And the first thing I did when I went on vacation to Santa Barbara was go to an off-season workout. And I was blown away by the talent base in Joe Pasternak's program. This team may play in the Big West, but it is an American Athletic Conference caliber roster. When I evaluate mid-major teams that can do damage in the NCAA tournament, I look for high major transfers or transfers from a higher level conference. Ja'Cory McLaughlin, Oregon State. Miles Norris, Oregon. And DeVeryl Ramsey, who you remember from your buddy Eric Musselman at Nevada. Great speed, frenetic, obviously, a very capable defender. UC Santa Barbara, more like an American Athletic Conference team. I like them to beat Creighton.
Rashad, what do you think? UC Santa Barbara, can they pull the upset, if it is even an upset in your guys' eyes, against Creighton?
Yeah, I don't think this is an upset at all. I like UCSB. I mean, this team was 22-4 in the Big West. I follow this conference all the time. Ja'Cory is tremendous. It's going to be the battle of the point guards. It's going to be Ja'Cory versus Marcus Zagorowski from Creighton. It's going to be a battle for the ages. But again, I like UCSB in this one.
Very good. To wrap up the West region, and I think you guys maybe both gave me your answer, but an underdog money line pick for this one. In other words, a team that is an underdog that you believe will win outright. I should mention, as we record here, Santa Barbara, a 6-point underdog against Creighton. I'm guessing I know where you're going, but Rashad, an underdog that you believe is going to flat out win in round one.
I like Ohio. I really love the kid, Jason Preston. I believe he's the best point guard in that region, in my opinion. If you watched him earlier in the season, he had his way with the Illinois backcourt. This kid is fantastic. He reminds me a lot of Tyrese Halliburton. He has great pace. He makes the right decisions. They're well coached. I like Ohio, Jason Preston.
John, underdog money line play here.
Fascinating thought here, my man. Fascinating.
Remember, well, listen, I'll give you a bailout if you want. We got Santa Barbara, as I just said, is a 6-point underdog in the FanDuel Sportsbook as we record here. So, I don't know if you want to.
I've said Santa Barbara, so there's one that I'm taking. So, you gave me the assist right now. You're not just obviously moderating this panel. You're like the John Stockton of obviously the best bets world.
The Jason Preston, the Ja'Cory McLaughlin, whatever you want to name me. I appreciate it. All right, guys, move to the South. Rashad, we will start with you. Chalk to advance a favorite that you believe will not only win, but cover the point spread.
Baylor.
Easy breezy. Another number one seed, they roll. John, how about you? Favorite that you believe will win and comfortably cover.
Baylor. Pain is coming for that 16 seed. Now, I just want to point out right now that John Gallagher is the life of the party at every Final Four party, the coach of Hartford, great guy. But again, if you were going to ask me what's your prediction for this game, I would quote Clubber Lang in Rocky III, pain.
Very good. Hate to say it, by the way, I grew up 5 minutes from University of Hartford. So I was rooting for them, their first ever NCAA tournament bid, but I think they're as good as gone. 12 seed in this region is Winthrop. They are playing a banged-up Villanova squad. The crazy thing is, you and I were talking off air earlier. You were actually part of a 12-5 upset, correct?
Absolutely. I had a time of my life that year. We beat the UCLA Bruins, and we were a 12 seed. But here's a little nugget I want to give everybody about 12 seeds and why they're so productive each March. Here's the thing. When you look at 12 seeds and why they beat fives every year, the 12 seeds are usually high-level mid-major teams. So usually the best mid-major team always gets slotted as a 12 seed. Then when you look at a 5 seed, it's usually a middle of a pack, high major team. So that's what we're looking at. So when you look at Winthrop versus Villanova, the pendulum is going to swing to Winthrop because they're the better team. 23-1. Chandler Valdron is one of the best players in the country. His versatility is tremendous. 12 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. I just really love this kid's game. Villanova comes in with some really good players. They have some injuries. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is an NBA first-round talent. But I just believe that Villanova will struggle against this team. Goes back to my theory. This is not your average 12 seed. This is one of the most dominant mid-major teams in all of America. That's why I'm going Winthrop.
John, Winthrop against Villanova. Do you believe Winthrop can pull this 12-5 upset?
They definitely can. I think they also the big thing that Winthrop has going for itself is, again, the depth that they have. 11 different guys average double figures. Villanova right now really obviously lacking in terms of its quality depth, but Villanova still does have Justin Moore and Jeremiah Robinson Earl and Jermaine Samuels, and they still have the best culture in college basketball. I agree that Villanova does not look built for a long NCAA tournament run, but I expect the Wildcats to win this game.
Very good, John. Wrapping up here in this region, do you have an underdog money line pick, a team that is an underdog that you believe can win outright in round one?
I got to tell you guys, looking at this region and going over with a fine-tooth comb, I don't see a vintage upset from a double-digit seed. I would say the game that I think looks the most interesting, and it's a boring one, but is the Wisconsin-North Carolina game where you might get obviously something different. But I don't have one right here. If I was going to roll the dice and take a pick, I understand why Winthrop is the pick. But I also think, Utah State's an intriguing pick, but I'm going to take Texas Tech. So there's not a double-digit seed here that jumps out to me as a team that I think is going to make obviously an upset here. But I would think, if I had to look at the scenario, I would take Wisconsin over North Carolina just because of the veteran guard play of Demetric Trice.
Anything jump out to you, Rashad, in this region, an underdog that could win outright?
You know what? I got to say this. Oral Roberts, okay?
My goodness.
Listen to me. Oral Roberts has a kid by the name of Max Asmus. If you watch the tape with Oral Roberts against Oklahoma State, this kid might be the most dangerous individual offensive player in the entire tournament. This kid averages 24 points, shoots 48% from the field, 43% from three, 90% from the free throw line. This kid can beat you by himself if that happens. And Ohio State, be careful. I'm just warning you guys, be careful because Max Asmus can beat you by himself. That's a scary matchup for Ohio State.
Let's move on to the final region, the Midwest region. Chalk to advance a favorite that you believe can, the favorite that you expect to not only win, but cover the point spread. Rashad, we'll start with you.
Illinois is here. When you look at the region, they have the best combination of guards.
John, favorite that you think is going to win comfortably?
The Illini, here comes the pain.
Moving on, 12 seed. Speaking of pain, Oregon State Beavers inflicted pain on the entire Pac-12 this weekend. They're playing a 5 seed in Tennessee. John, we'll start with you. Oregon State, are they a 12 seed that could potentially upset a 5?
They definitely can. A name to watch, obviously, guys, is Warith Alatishe, a very active forward who's a transfer, could be a real disruptor. But, Aaron, I thought that Tennessee, without John Fulkerson, showed a lot of promise in the way that they played against Alabama. This is still a team, again, and I sometimes think, and I thought this watching them, when they don't have Fulkerson in the lineup and Yves Pons becomes kind of that small ball 5-man, they're getting their best players on the floor and their flow is so much better offensively. Tennessee to me is still a team that is good enough to win 4 games in this tournament and get to a Final Four. A lot of people forget this team was ranked in the top 10 for long stretches of the season. I think Tennessee is going to beat Oregon State, and one thing is for certain, the amount of orange that's going to be on the floor in this game will be astronomical.
It would be crazy.
Preseason SEC favorite Tennessee, Oregon State, of course, the Pac-12 champ in the conference tournament. Rashad, do you believe Oregon State can pull an upset here?
No, I think Tennessee wins this. This is my kind of sleeper pick to get through the entire bracket. I just think Tennessee has the makeup to win 3 or 4 games moving forward. No, Oregon State doesn't win this.
All right, wrapping up this region, underdog money line pick. In other words, a team that you see or the book sees as an underdog, a team that's not expected to win, that you believe will win outright. Rashad, we'll start with you.
I think Loyola Chicago will give the Fighting Illini their best punch. Again, the most unselfish team in the country. They share the ball. They only have one double-digit score, but they have 5, 6, 7 guys that come in and can impact the game. I like Loyola Chicago.
John, pick for you.
I'm going to go with Georgia Tech against Loyola Chicago.
All right. Great insight from you both on the round 1 matchups. And of course, Rashad previewing round 2 with Loyola and Illinois. The good news for viewers is that they can get your game picks every day of the tournament throughout March. Pickswise is running a college basketball handicapping contest featuring some of the best experts in the game. Get free daily picks and analysis from the likes of these 2 gentlemen, Jon Rothstein, Rashad Phillips, and more. Head over to Pickswise.com each day to see which expert is hot as they battle it out for a winner-takes-all $10,000 cash prize. Best of luck with the contest. Let's move on. Player to watch. So, Rashad, you, of course, cover not only college basketball, but things from the NBA draft perspective. We'll get to John momentarily, but I do want to start with you, Rashad. This is your specialty, one of the best in the business at scouting and evaluating NBA talent. Give us some. Everybody knows Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State, Ayo Dosunmu from Illinois, Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga, Corey Kispert from Gonzaga. Give us 1 or 2 guys that are a little bit off the radar that could become household names, not only this March, but as we get set for the NBA draft this summer.
Yeah, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you 1 player from each region so everybody can watch. So let's start in the West region. You look at the West region, I like Bones Highland out of VCU. A10 player of the year, 6'5" combo guard with great wiggle and shot making ability. This kid is the NBA talent. I've watched him all season long. I love what he brings to the table. He plays with a lot of energy. He plays with a lot of slithery. He can get to the lane. He can create space better than anybody in the country. He's a fantastic kid to watch. Let's move over to the East region. Now, Isaiah Stewart from UNC Greensboro. He's a 3-time SoCon Defensive Player of the Year, and he's by far the best athlete in a round of 64. This kid is fantastic in open space. He's exciting. He plays the passing lanes like a shutdown corner. I think he could be an NFL player. He might want to go into a combine as well. He has great closing speed. I love this kid's motor. Let's go to the South region. Nobody has talked about this team or this player, but Jordan Burns out of Colgate, player of the year, super skilled, loves the big stage, has globs of a talent, great leadership. He has a magnetism about himself. Turn on the tape, watch this kid. He's going to be exciting. He's going to be tremendous. I love his ability to keep going. Now, Midwest, we're going to go with a senior, Jordan Shackle from San Diego State. He's a fantastic shooter, shoots over 40% for his career. He's a 90% free throw shooter the last 2 years. I believe he's going to make some big shots for San Diego State to move forward. Remember this kid's name, Jordan Shackle.
I will never forget watching Jordan Shackle at Bishop Montgomery High School in California play Sierra Canyon, pre-Bronny James. They had Marvin Bagley, Remy Martin, who just finished his Arizona State career, Cody Riley, who's playing in the NCAA tournament for UCLA. Loaded team, loaded roster. Jordan Shackle was phenomenal that night. Great career at San Diego State. John, 1 or 2 players or however many you got that are a little bit off the radar that you're excited to watch this NCAA tournament?
Chris Duarte from Oregon is definitely one, guys. He is definitely somebody to keep an eye on. You know, he's so underrated nationally. And also James Bouknight out of UConn, who's finally getting back healthy. Just a tremendous, tremendous talent.
For our best bets, we're going to give our 3 favorite bets for round 1 along with a money line parlay that we will all be playing via the FanDuel Sportsbook. Rashad, let's start with you. Your 3 best bets for round 1 of the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I'm going to go Baylor minus 26 here. Abilene Christian plus 9. Winthrop plus 6 over Villanova. Those are my 3.
John, how about your 3 best bets?
I agree with him with Winthrop over Villanova, even though I think that Obviously, Villanova is going to win the game if it does happen, but I'm going to think that's obviously not a bad take. I like Oregon as well, and I also think that you have to look at the UConn game. UConn can win that game by double figures.
I'm with you on UConn. UConn -2.5 as we record here. I think they win comfortably. North Carolina -2 against Wisconsin. I just think Carolina is going to kill them on the boards. And I'll say I do disagree with you guys on the Tennessee Vols. I just think I've been waiting all year. I'm going to be gray and retired before they actually figure it out. I've been waiting all year for them to get right. So I like Oregon State plus the points. They're +7.5 as we record here. 2-team parlay. Okay, I'll start. And a parlay, of course, for people who are new to gambling, you take two teams, you just pick them either against the spread or to win, but you put them together. And if they both cover or win, however you have it set up, you, of course, win significantly more money than just picking one individual team. So my 2-team parlay, I'm going to go big or go home. I'm going to ride this 12-5 train into the ground. I like Oregon State to win outright against Tennessee. Sorry, fellas, I know you like Tennessee, but I am more in on Oregon State. Tennessee, I've been waiting all year for them to get right. It just hasn't happened yet. Georgetown, kind of the same deal. I just think I don't think they're a bad matchup for Colorado at all. So I will take Oregon State and Georgetown +918 is what it will pay if they both win outright. Rashad, who is your 2-team parlay here?
I like Texas Tech. That's the tongue twister. I like them, what they bring to the table. And again, I'm going to stick with Abilene Christian.
Good, John. Parlay, what do you got?
Texas Tech for sure. I think Texas Tech's a team that has a great chance to maybe get to a regional final. They're that good. And I think also when we're looking at a parlay situation, I'm going to go back to Oregon.
Texas Tech, Oregon. Did you say LSU too? You were talking about LSU before the show. Did you mention LSU?
LSU's also in there as well. They played so well against Alabama.
Yeah.
Understood.
You're the John Stockton of this.
I'm trying. The Jason Preston. Before we get out of here, a big thank you to our sponsors from FanDuel Sportsbook. To celebrate the tournament starting, they have launched a Spread the Love campaign for new and existing customers on Thursday's first 4 game between UCLA and Michigan State. For every 2,500 fans who bet on Michigan State, they will move the line 1 point in their favor. The line opened -1.5. It's already up to +6. There is no limit on how high this line can go. Spread the love. Tell your friends. Head over to FanDuel Sportsbook to take advantage of this offer. If you're a new customer, you can also claim the $1,000 risk-free first bet. Sign up using the link down below in the description or use the promo code Pickswise to claim now. Gentlemen, we've come full circle. We've talked everything. National championships, 12-5, underdogs. As we get out of here, give us your last thought. John, go ahead. Start with you.
I just think that we should all just be so grateful that we have this NCAA tournament. And I think we kick it off this year with really what is going to be, I think, the most anticipated first 4 game that we've ever had since the creation of the first 4 with UCLA and Michigan State. So let's be grateful. Let's embrace, obviously, what we have. And what we have is obviously the greatest show in sports, the NCAA tournament.
Rashad, your final thoughts. We are here. We have the bracket. We're going to crown a national champion in 3 weeks or so. What do you think, Rashad?
Like John said, let's just be grateful that we're able to witness these student athletes compete at the highest level. I wish for health for everybody in the bubble, including you, John. Stay safe.
Thanks, buddy.
And let's just continue to have fun and enjoy this great game of basketball in March Madness.
Just echo the sentiment of these gentlemen here, these student athletes, these coaches, student managers, trainers, whomever have all gone through so much, but we got to this point. We're having an NCAA tournament, and that is all. Please gamble responsibly, have fun, set yourself a bankroll. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Best of luck with all your bets, and enjoy the game.